because I get way too excited about about stuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn that on. And let me just put this here. That way I can see I got it on my other monitor so that I can see what's going on here. And so as people join, my name's James Gray, and yeah, John, you can. That's fine. Go ahead and put in chat. Um, who's tried work? Who's already built a skill? And if you have, great. If you haven't, you are going to walk away with a skill. Yeah, so just go ahead and input if you got any experience around building a skill, and then if you do, go ahead and just share what that skill is, and any other kind of nuggets that you'd like to share in terms of the value and so forth. Because this is what we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on kind of the process around building a skill and then how to use it. So I promise you, I'll do my best to do this within 30 minutes. There's a bunch of stuff that we need to go through, but I'll do my best. And I don't have a hard stop. So if there's some of you at the end who just are having way too much fun and got some more specific questions, I'm happy to stay a little bit longer. All right. So anybody in the chat? Let me check in the chat. I haven't built a skill. I haven't built a skill, but I am using chatbots extensively. Okay. All right. What about everybody else? Who's built a skill? And if you haven't, your world is going to change, because over these last couple months, that's what I've been doing extensively. And I'll just say that it's radically improved my ability to do work faster, but not only faster, better and more consistent. And I've got a couple other sessions. I know we're going to start here at 11. I've got a couple of other upcoming lightning sessions as well that kind of build upon this idea of workflows and skills and packaging our workflows and so forth. So welcome everybody else. I do see some other friends from my past here. Mel, good to see you. Swagata. Oh my gosh, so fun. Jessica Cates. All right, Doug. Yeah, so hey, I am super stoked. Thanks everybody for joining, and we're gonna have fun together. And for those of you who've just joined, go ahead and put in the chat whether you've built any skills before. So I'm just looking here, Beatrice, looking for use cases to be creative. Hey, James, looking forward. I haven't. Okay, yeah. So everybody, nope, good. Well, if you haven't, that's cool, because that's probably why you joined this session. We're going to have so much fun. We're going to get into it. And as I said, for those people who just joined, I don't have a hard stop at the end. And I'm happy to stay a little bit longer to answer your questions because I want to leave you with as much kind of value and as much as I know in this topic. And more importantly, how that I use these skills for my business. And like John F., I used to use ChatGPT a lot until I really got deep into really applying these skills. And I got all kinds of examples in terms of how I use them to run my one person business. All right. Yeah, so for those coming in, if you built a skill, go ahead and just put in the chat. If you haven't, no worries. That's why you're here. And if you have built something, describe what the skill is. Maybe there's a one-liner. I haven't yet. I want clearly to understand examples. Yeah. So one thing that I do, and in my cohort courses, that's what I get. People's like examples. And in my current cohort, my other one of my cohorts, like I share all of the examples that I use as an instructor to things that I do in Maven and beyond Maven. So it is radically going to change. I say your life, and I really mean it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. Um, as we go through, I've got my monitor up. Go ahead and put the questions in the chat, and then at the end we'll do 10 or 15 minutes of all your questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. Like I said, I don't have a super hard stop, and I want to respect everybody's time because you're busy people. Okay, so that's me on the left, or that's me. Those are all the jobs that I've had. I've just been in the data and AI space for, I don't know, 20 something years. And then I'm an instructor at Berkeley, went to grad school. Of course, I do my own Maven courses. I do some consulting and some other things, right? So that's me. If you want to get nuggets in your email, that's my Substack. And so why are we here? Here's what I see. And hopefully that's why you're here, is that a lot of people, right, when we have a workflow, we get our workflow instructions wrong. What do I see? And I've seen this in my cohort. They're too high level. The instructions around executing the work are way too high level, and they don't get the performance. The other thing I see are these mega prompts of like these steps, and they're like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lines long. And that sometimes doesn't work. So what is the real issue? The real issue is a lot of the things that we need to do require very precise procedural control, because we might do this task manually, and it does require that level of precision and repeatability. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to learn how to build a Claude skill. And what is that? It's going to package up. It's going to be the how-to manual that when I want to perform this, when I want Claude to perform this task, here's the manual. Here's the manual around how to do that, so that every time Claude is going to execute it, it's going to be not only done consistently, but Claude is going to have all of the skills in its brain, so it's going to know when and how to actually execute this task. And of course, I'm going to give you some examples. So what are we going to do? We're going to map a workflow, and we're going to look for opportunities in this workflow to see, are there steps and tasks that we can then package up as a skill? Okay. And I'll show you the process that I teach around how to do that, because I've kind of found sometimes people don't know where to start. I'll take you through the flow. We are going to build a skill live, right? We're going to do it together. We're going to build one so you understand how to do one. Once you do one, you're going to be off to the races. And then what are we going to do? We're going to test that skill, right? We're going to create a little a prompt. I'll show you an example. And then we're going to see Claude actually call those instructions and perform a workflow. Okay, that's what we're going to do. So again, keep on putting your questions in the chat. So let's why did Anthropic create this, right? Right in 2025, it's like agents. Yeah, okay. But if agents, these digital workers, don't have the how-to manual, they're not going to carry out that task. And so that's what Anthropic identified, is that the real workflows that we want to do, they really need all of the procedural knowledge, but organizational context. They need all of the edge cases and all these little things, right? So that's the why. The solution to that is a skill. And what is a skill? A skill is a folder in your Claude AI account, and it's going to have some instructions around how to perform the task. And it's got other goodies in there that can be used as resources in the how-to manual if it needs these additional resources. And so what do? The skill tells Claude, this is how you do that task. And it's going to go to the instruction manual so that it performs that task in a repeatable way. Okay, so here it is in a nutshell, right? Here's the nutshell. Claude is in the middle, and we have these skills. And as I mentioned, and I'll talk a little bit more about what exactly is, but the skills in our account, there's a file system that's in our account, and those skills on the right, applying brand guidelines, that is a skill. That's a skill folder. Okay, and here's how Claude's going to activate it. In our workflow prompt, when we say research our competitor Acme and write a competitive brief that aligns with my brand guidelines, you see the keywords that I've underlined? Well, when you boot up your Claude account, Claude is going to go to your virtual file system, and it's going to read every skill in your account. Now, I have over 50 skills, okay? And so it's going to, and so when it processes this very simple workflow prompt, research our competitor, it's going to go and read the how-to manual, researching competitors, of how do I do that? What are all the steps? What are all the nuances? What does it mean to go reach the competitor? Do I go to their websites? Do I go to LinkedIn? I think you can see the thing. There is so much detail that a lot of times we have around expectations of a specific task. But a lot of times that's what we do in our prompt. It's like, oh yeah, research competitor. It's like, oh, but it didn't do this and didn't do that. Of course, because we didn't tell it, right? So hopefully you can see the activation here is that when we ask Claude for to do something, it's automatically cut through these keywords going to read the instruction manual and it's going to carry out that task. Okay. And then, of course, if some of our tasks require MCP connections, then it's going to use the MCP connection. So this is skills in a nutshell. And just take this mental model. And as I mentioned, these things are called automatically. The other thing to note is that when you boot up your Claude account, it is going to read the metadata. It's going to read this little part of the skill, which is the name and a description of the skill. And we'll look at an example. You can see yours once you create theirs. If it's needed, if Claude sees, oh yeah, James wants to write this competitive brief, it is then going to go read all the instructions, the instruction manual, which it provides all the detail that's captured in the skill.md file. But here's the other thing that makes this very powerful that may not be obvious to a lot of people. In that skill folder, there can be, as you see in this little image down there, all these other nuggets and resources that Claude needs to perform that particular task. This, for example, it's in a kind of could be this resources file. It might be examples and templates and all kinds of other things to carry out that task, right? And this is what we can't do in a traditional prompt. We can't, one, package it for first. And second, we can't put all of these additional references and things that Claude needs to really perform the task. In addition to like typical things that we might put in a prompt window, the other thing it can is a folder can actually include things like Python code, right? So if we need procedural control or we need Claude to perform a calculation, obviously we're not going to do that, be able to do that in Word. So it goes way beyond just markdown and text instructions. It can include code and things that are called dynamically. So this is super powerful. Claude says that is unlimited of what you can put in there. I'm sure there's a limit, but this is just the hierarchy around when a skill needs, what does it go through to kind of activate it? So I want to take you through like, okay, James, you've convinced me. How do we actually go about it? And this is the picture that I'm starting to teach in my current cohort. Why? Because people just don't know how to go about it, right? So I'm going to go through this fairly quick. You'll have this picture. But the one thing you'll see here is don't do this by yourself. Get Claude, and you're going to go and riff with Claude through this whole collaborative process. So let's look at it at the beginning. There's this thing that we want to facilitate and have Claude help us orchestrate. And you're going to be the best to decide what that is. But what we need to do is we need to identify the process. We need to break it down into a bunch of workflows, something that is smaller, right? And then what we're going to do, let's take one workflow, and we're going to break that down into high-level steps. And you'll see here, every one of those steps. Can you all see my picture? Hopefully you can.
Yes.
Okay, good. There was somebody who said they couldn't see it. So as we go through every one of these steps, what I recommend, create a project so that as you riff and as you go through this, you are collaborating in a project so that Claude is storing all this information so that if you need to do it over the course of a couple of days, you don't have to re-explain it to Claude. You're going to deconstruct those down to steps. You're going to get an outline, right? Claude is going to produce, and you're going to ask for it. I'll share an example here, an outline of the workflow in all of the steps, right? And you're going to do that through the collaborative discussion with Claude. If your workflow needs some connectors, go ahead and configure your connectors. And then you're going to look at this beautiful markdown that Claude has created for you, and you're going to either ask it or look at it and say, out of all those steps, which of those are really candidates for skills? And to you, it'd be, which of those are repeatable would be one. Which of those really need very rich, specific instructions in the instruction manual and examples and templates and all things like that? If that's the case, Claude can even tell you. You can ask it like, hey, it recommends, you break these down. So just ask it. And once you have the candidates, then you can go build it and test it and then use it in your workflow. So this is kind of what I teach. Create a project, and have Claude help you get down to the levels of detail. You don't have to do it all by yourself. And then here's some things you can do, right? You can feed Claude. Maybe you've got SOPs, maybe you've got workflow diagrams, right? Add all your instructions, explain what you want. And here's the other thing that I do always, most of the time throughout the day. I have my whisper flow on, and I just hit the button and I just start talking to Claude around like what I want. It's a lot faster, it's a lot richer. So if you're not using a voice to text tool, I highly, highly recommend that. Okay, so here's an example, a little bit of meta prompting at the top. What we're going to ask is we're going to do meta prompting. We're going to have Claude help us with this thing that we want to do. We know what we want. We just don't know how to translate it into breaking it down into steps and ordering and details, right? So at the top, do a little role playing and then describe the high level steps. In this case, it's kind of a sales motion. Essentially, go on LinkedIn, go find me a bunch of people, maybe 5 people or who are prospects who look like this buyer persona so that I have a good inventory of some people who would be candidates for, let's say, my business. 5 steps, right? Those are pretty high level. Describe what you want and why you want that, and give it to Claude, and it's going to produce on the right a workflow, and you'll see steps. I'm not going to be able to go through every steps, right? Step 1, analyze the buyer persona. Step 2, analyze LinkedIn. Step 3, and there's a whole bunch of steps in there. Now, as we look at that, we might know like, oh gosh, that's step 3. Yeah, like there's so many details. And not only there's details, but that activity and that task is something that I do consistently and I could use across workflows. So, and you can even ask Claude, hey Claude, look through this workflow and identify places that we can package this up as a skill. Okay. And so that would be what I'd recommend, right? This is very like breaking it down and then getting to something concrete. And then let's go build one, right? So let's go build one right now, right? So hopefully everybody understands the process. And so the first thing that you're going to do, and I'll just go to it, is you're going to go into, I'll just come here and I've got a window open, but I don't want to go to your settings. Okay, go to your settings and go to your capabilities. Okay, and you're going to go down here and there's going to be a skills section. Okay, and like I said, I've got 50 something skills here and I'm happy to share my examples. But go to the example skills. And these are all the skills that Anthropic has packaged in the box as examples. And there's one here that you want to turn on. There's a skill to help to help us create skills. So just turn that on. I think it is on by default, but just go ahead and turn that on. Okay. And again, if you've got questions as we go in chat, go ahead and put them in there. Right. And so let me just go back to my slide for a sec, just so you kind of know the steps. What you're going to do is you're going to create a new chat and you're going to say the keywords, like, Claude, help me create a skill that. And you're just going to describe the skill, the outcome you want. You might also ask Claude to go out, maybe research something, or maybe you want to upload some files into the prompt. Just provide Claude with enough information and background, because what it's going to do after you hit the button, ask Claude to create a skill for you, it's likely going to ask you a lot of clarifying questions, right? And so this is where you're going to riff with Claude until you get something that is essentially what you want. Okay. So for those of you who are following along, go ahead and I'm going to do it with you here so you can, and I'm going to pick just a simple example in the interest of time, right? And so we're just going to go and we're going to create a new chat, right? And I'm going to, again, this is going to be really easy. I need your help to create a new Claude skill that organizes raw meeting notes into structured summaries, right? And I'm going to hit this. And generally, Claude is going to ask you a bunch of questions, right? And here's some questions here, right? And hopefully there's not too many in the interest of time. I'm just going to, and here's what I do. I literally turn on the thing. Number one, these meetings are for client consultations, right? And I just go down them. Where do you raw notes? Scratch docs, right? I'm just going to say docs, right? And you're just going to go ahead and so if you're following along, just go ahead and answer, right, the questions. And so I'm just going to say, what structure do you need? I'm just going to say summary, right? And they're just answering some of these questions, right? And hopefully, it has enough to work through, right? But what we're going to do is we're going to, right, riff with this, and we're going to get to something. It's got a couple other questions. Create new pages. I'm just going to say as a Word doc, right? Yeah, I'm just going to say as a Word doc. So hopefully, oh, I misspelled Word. We'll see how good it got our Word doc. Okay. So here's what it is. Hey, let me confirm this, right? This is what you want. And it's asking me for a couple things. Should the doc include the James Gray brand? So here's another thing. Because we've got memory turned on, Claude is going to recommend a whole bunch of other things like, hey, James, should it include your branding? I'm going to say, yes, align with my branding. Okay. And we're just going to go that. And we'll get to the end. And again, it would be a little bit more involved in this, but we'll get to a point here. And if you all are following along, yeah, you have to have a pay plan for this to work, because all of these skills that you create get added to your Claude account. Okay, so and there's some out of the box skills here. One of them is the document creation tool. Okay, so here's what's going on. Claude is going to give it a name, and it's going to give it a description. And in here, it's writing out all the instructions on this simple thing that I wanted, which was helping me create a skill for writing summaries, right? Now, a lot of times in the case, we have some very specific things, what it creates summaries on, right? And so you can see in this very thing, like we're already up to five steps and things like that. So again, we can't expect Claude to carry a task out if we haven't explained the details. And I think that hopefully is like, yeah. And it's not until we look at what a typical skill would look like in with a level of rigor that we truly appreciate the level of procedural knowledge and control that Claude needs, or really any AI needs, to automatically and consistently execute our tasks, right? So, and if anybody has gotten down to their skill, go ahead and put it in the chat around what your skill name was. And the last step here is you're going to get something that says copy to skills, which is a button. And what that's going to do, that is going to save this skill into your Claude account. It's going to create a folder with the name of the skill. Okay. This thing is still being written. All right. Okay. Here it is. Here's my skill, organizing meeting notes, right? That is the skill. So today or tomorrow, if I gave Claude a whole bunch of stuff and used the magic word, hey, Claude, organize my meeting notes, it's going to go look through all of the gory details, and it is going to then activate this. So it should ask you for, it should provide you at the end a button to say copy to skills. Sometimes I notice it doesn't do that. So I'm just going to say something like, please package up this skill so I can upload it to my account. All right. And what we need, the format of the actual skill technically is a zip file. Okay. And that's what's uploaded into your account. But the other thing is that you can also download this zip file, which I do recommend, because think about this. Every one of these skills is your IP, and you do want a copy of it. Okay. All right. So, in my case, I asked it for a zip file, and I could download this, but let me see if it'll package the skill up so that I can upload it. Okay. And we'll see what it does. Sometimes it's not consistent, but hopefully what you got is is a button that says upload it to your account. And we'll see how good it does here. Okay. I'm in Claude AI, so please package the skill. We'll see how good it does. Okay. So did anybody get a skill? Did anybody get a skill? Or maybe you're just following along. Okay. So this is the skill building process, right? And what you're going to do is you're going to create these skills in your workflow. You're going to have one or more skills. I'm happy to share my examples towards the end if you really want to see like some deep how all these skills are used. Claude skills are available in desktop. They're in the web app as well. They're available in both places. So what is it going to look like for all of you who've never built up skills? Here's what the end result's going to look like. You're going to have a war chest of a whole bunch of examples. I'm happy to share my examples, Lori, at the end if you want to see like literally all these. Well, here's a whole bunch of examples. Like these are I don't know if you can see it. Like these are actually examples, things that I do to teach all my courses, right? And there's a lot of stuff. And how do we get to this? Though, and I just want to reinforce this because it's not a technical thing. The way that we get to these skills is we analyze our business of what we do. We analyze the work that we do and we ask ourselves, what are all those tasks? And a lot of times during the day, I'm like, oh, there's this thing I do. I ask myself, oh, is that something I'm going to do repeatedly? And if so, I will either go create it right there if I'm doing the workflow, or I'll just take a note, hey, I really need to create that task, right? So these are just an essence of all the things that I do, right? Like naming courses, naming workflows, designing work lessons. Okay, so we've built the skill. Some of you have, right? So now let's go to the next step. The next step is how do we use it? Okay, so
Yes.
let's just look at this mental model. On the left is typically what we've all done. We've got this big honking prompt that's 300 lines long, and we wonder why it doesn't run, or we hit the context window, or it's just like, right, it just doesn't perform. That was before. After, let's look at, right, the skill powered workflow, right? What's going to happen here? We're going to ask Claude to execute this workflow step by step. But when it gets to those one-liners, what is it going to do? It's going to go to and go read the instruction manual. So this is a big difference in terms of like tokens, right? Because our prompt becomes this very short thing. Hopefully this makes sense. And then when needed, it's going to go to the folder, it's going to read the instruction manual, and then it knows exactly how to perform that task because we spent the time and we imparted our domain expertise to Claude, right? So it doesn't have to read our mind. we have to spew our mind out first, okay? And then we're able to reuse these over and over and over again. So at the bottom, yes, they're reusable. They load on demand. They do accelerate our work. And if you have a team and you want to really get consistency in terms of how your team performs that, this is really awesome. Okay, so let's look at a real example, so that you can appreciate. And so what do I do? Like one of the things I do, right? I teach. And one of the things I do is I create lightning lessons. And so this is a real thing that I created the other day in this series that I did. Like, I don't have skills around designing lightning lessons. Why don't I? There was no good answer. Okay, so let's look at the workflow on the right. Let's say tomorrow I want to create a new lightning lesson. Let's look at the prompt on the right. And it's in quotes. I need to create a new lightning lesson to promote my Claude for Builders course. The topic is ship faster using Claude Code. The audience are technical builders. And then you see the 3 steps there. I'm asking Claude, design a lightning lesson. The second thing I want you to do is create a Word document. And the third thing I want you to do is I want you to save the lightning lesson details to my Notion database. Okay? So I've said 3 things. So what happens when I push the button here in this prompt? right? Claude is going to read the designing lightning lessons, going to go read that manual and like, oh, I know how to do that. And then when it gets to the second step in the prompt here, it's going to read, well, how do I create Word documents? And then this third thing it's going to do is it's going to save the Lightning lesson to my Notion database. And so, Beatrice, no, did you underline the skill? No, this is only for you all, so that there's no underlining. I just wanted to provide the linkage between the actual skill, so that the skills are basically activated based upon the keywords. So like on the left, you see I've got a skill called designing lightning lesson. So when I say to Claude, I need your help to create or design a new lightning lesson, it's like, okay, I'm going to go read the instruction manual, right? And that's how it does it. And yes, I have an MCP connection to my Notion database, and I'm happy to show you how I use Notion as it relates to skills and things like that, which is a whole other conversation. But if you're curious, I'll say a little bit about it. And if you want to know more, I actually have an upcoming lightning lesson on that. Okay, so does everybody get this on the right? Okay, it's a very simple thing. And now, anytime I want to go create a new lightning lesson, I just say, Claude, I need your help to design a new lightning lesson. The topic is this, and I want a Word document, and then I also want you to save it in Notion, right? My ability to create lightning lessons has just skyrocketed, right? Like it just, does everybody get that? Like I used to do this completely manual, and what was the result? The result is I probably found it too cumbersome to do. And so maybe I wouldn't do it, right? But I love teaching, right? So this just unlocks me. So let's actually go and see, in the interest of time, right? What does it actually look like, right? In terms of execution. And this is it. And this is it. Let's just look at it. I need to create a new lightning lesson, right? This is the exact prompt that I had in the PowerPoint, or excuse me, in the G slide. Okay, what happens? Claude says, "Hey, yeah, I'll create a lightning lesson. Let me start designing the lesson structure, right? So I have already created, right, a skill of what does it mean to design a lightning lesson? What are all the things that are required on the Maven page? How do I go about it? And so as it goes through, you see this reading the lightning lesson. This is where it goes into the folder and reads the skill on all of the details. And I'm happy to actually call up the real skill so you can actually see it. Happy to do that. And then the other thing it did is it actually read my brand guideline skill to ensure that the words that are in my proper voice. And then the next thing it did, because I said I wanted a Word document, it read the Anthropic out of the box docs skill, which is how to create a Word document. And then it kept on going and it said, oh, hey, perfect. Now let me add the lightning lesson to your Notion database. And excellent. Let me present the deliverables to you. Here's what I did, James. I've created you a new lightning lesson, and here it is. And here's the Word document, right? This contains all of the information that I would need to go and configure my landing page on Maven. And here's all my session structure. Here's what I'm going to go through, right? Now, is it perfect? Well, I don't know, but it's better than a blank sheet of paper. Here's some anticipated questions, right? This is the first time I'm looking at it, actually, right? Because it took a little while to run. Here's some teaching notes for you, James. All right. So let me just take a pause there, if that made sense. I asked Claude to do something. There was no ad hoc prompting. I asked it to do three things: to help me design a lightning lesson, to save it as a Word document, and publish the results in my Notion database, because that's where I keep track of everything. Okay. So those are the steps. Okay. Like literally those are the steps. And I know we're at time here. I'm happy to answer any other questions for people who wanted to actually see like my Notion database that stores anytime I collaborate with Claude. Like this is my real work, right? This is my real work. This is the one it just created in the bottom here. The ship faster. That's what it like. And maybe I should go put this out there on Maven. If you all think I should go put this this lightning lesson out on Maven, I'll go do it. But those are the results. So I not only collaborated with Claude, but I ask the skill to write the results to where I do my work, which is Notion. Okay. So again, it created all the things that I would need to create my landing page, right? And that's what I actually did for this one. I helped Claude. It's an augmentation. Can I do it by myself? Of course I can, but I want to be able to do it consistently, and I need to do it quicker so I can teach more things, right? Okay, my course, right? If you're interested in this, right? I've got this new course specifically on Claude because I just absolutely love it, right? It's people who just want to get down and dirty and build things on the Claude platform. This is my first cohort. I'm going to limit to people so people can give me advice and feedback. Of course, I've got another course that is very well rated. But if it's something you're interested in and you want to be a part of the kind of the founder cohort, you can save 25% in the next week. And there's a code called founder. I should probably put it on the deck, but it's on the website. So that's it. We're gonna have fun in the first cohort, and I know some folks are already signed up. Okay, so let's do a Q&A. Has this been helpful to folks? And feel free to put some questions in the chat. And I will take any kind of question, what you're all curious about. Give me a little bit of feedback. Does everybody understand now kind of the power of the encapsulation of skills? Take anything that you do and ask yourself, do I do this repeatedly? Do I need rigor and control to impart my domain expertise so that I can really build up this war chest and this toolbox so that Claude doesn't have to read my mind? Okay. Can I
James,
put, yeah, is there a question? Yeah, go ahead.
this is Swagata. I have a question
Yeah.
about the details. So you built a skill for summarizing meeting notes. How did you tell which meeting notes? Like we have meeting notes in different formats and everywhere, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So all you would do is you would then create a new chat and give it your raw meeting notes, right? So
Oh, an
so so
example meeting notes?
yeah, you could upload the notes, or you can give it the Word document, or
Oh,
you could put a whole bunch of things on the prompt window, right? It could just be raw text, right? And
oh,
so you're what are the magical words in this example? It would be summarize these meaning notes, and then on the prompt, you would just say plus, and you would just load up all the stuff you want Claude in this case to summarize. Does that help?
okay. So you have to give it the context.
Well, yeah, you're asking it to summarize these meeting notes, and so you have to give it the raw things, and right, it's then gonna right give you a really nice view of what that is, right?
Can I ask
Um,
you a next detailed question about that?
yeah,
So for next cohorts or whatever you are doing, do you store these files as with a particular format saying meeting notes, these are meeting notes?
yeah. So, well, let's go. These are great. Let's go look at what is actually. Well, let's look at one, right? Let's look at one together.
Sorry about the
So,
detailed question, but I'm
yeah, no. Let's go look at one. And I was just looking to see if we could go look at this one, organizing meeting notes, right? And let's go. Please show the skill.md file. What I wanted you to see was, what is the skill.md file, look
mm,
like, right? And when we look at it, we'll see all the details, right? And so, I don't know why it's asking me about Claude Desktop, but let's go look at another one just so that we can again appreciate what's packaged up. And again, keep on putting your questions. I'm happy to stay a little bit longer if I'm helping you all. Okay, let's look at one that I do all the time, which is name my session titles. And you were like, really, James, a skill for that? Yes. Okay, so let's look at it, right? So we've got a name, right? This is a folder, and this is the actual instructions, right?
mm,
These are all the instructions. When I want to name a session title for you all for my courses, this is all the details that Claude goes through to name this, right? Because I want them to be consistent, yada yada. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of rules, right? And if you want to
oh,
look at the code view, This is the actual markdown file, right? So when Claude goes and activates this thing, it's going to go read this markdown file, right? And it's going to go read
Mhm.
the name, it's going to go read the description, and it's just going to process this whole markdown file. Okay? That's how it knows to how to perform the task. And then there's this little references folder. These are like naming patterns, right? So anything that Claude needs can be packaged up in some subfolders. This is what makes this very powerful is it's a folder where we're putting the how-to manual and all of the resources to perform that task. Does that help?
Yes, thanks, James. So yeah, what I'm seeing is you have all these the examples are using, or sorry, the files are using those as examples and then noting down the details of
Yeah,
how you
yeah,
do it.
exactly. Yeah,
That's why
exactly.
skills is so powerful, right? So
Oh yeah, I mean it's going to change. Like, trust me, it's going to radically change all of you, your productivity and consistency dramatically.
mhm.
Anytime if you hit the token, if you hit like the token limits, a lot of that goes away, right? Because you're not being verbose and you're not uploading everything but the kitchen sink on in the prompt window. So it's really going to radically change. Let me take a couple other questions here because these are good. Um, so you created these skills first one at a time individually and then created a prompt. Yes, right. That little diagram I created. This is why I would recommend you all create like in the case like in my courses like I've got a project for my different courses and I riff with Claude throughout the whole day. And so what I do if there's a workflow that I want Claude to help me decompose, I get into a chat, I start talking about it, and then I say like, hey, which of these things could be captured as skills? And a lot of times, sometimes it will recommend, hey, these are really good candidates for skills. And it'll say, do you want to go ahead and create those? And be like, yeah, let's go do it. And because it's got the context of your conversation stuff, it can really help you through that process, right? And so um, break your thing down, build the skills, and then build up just the prompt then. And a lot of times the prompt, like I said, comes from this thing down to right something small because you've really just broken down right the things that you do repeatedly. And that's if you do this, you're going to have just a lot of skills in your thing. So hopefully that helps. Um, there's a question about slash commands. Well, the thing is that these are dynamically called, so you don't have to slash command like you have to like literally like do the slash command and say you do this. These are really loaded agentically, right? So that when you use the words um, create a meeting summary, Claude already knows what that means, goes to the skill and performs the task. So that's why they're a little bit different. Is the Claude agent is loading? It has loaded those, and it knows what those things are, and will execute them automatically for you. And then what other nuggets that we've got in here? These are really good questions. So, I mean, all the other companies are rapidly, you know, working on adopting this because these are so powerful, right? They're kind of like subroutines, right? Now, the OpenAI, Microsoft, and others, they're already supporting them in their developer tools. And so I'm sure it's just gonna. I'm sure we're gonna see this. I say sure. I don't know about that. In ChatGPT and Google, the pattern is super powerful. So Claude was the one. And by the way, they've open sourced it, right? So actually, Claude, it's not skills. Agent skills. I think it's agent skills. Yeah, agentskills.io. It's the open standard. So everybody, it's not just a Claude thing now. Yeah, thanks, Justin. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, if folks need to hop, feel free to hop. It's just been so fun. Again, join the waiting list if it's something that you're interested. I'm happy to stay for a couple more minutes if there's enough folks who wanna who've got questions. I'm happy to do that.
I
Um,
have a question.
yeah, Jay, go ahead.
Yeah, what's the cost of the course without the 25% discount? I'm just curious.
I think it comes to a little bit over $1,000.
Cool.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in terms of how these skills work, how do you give skills access to your Notion account? I mean, I assume that somehow it's got to interact with the Notion API, but there's got to be, authentication or identification or login credentials. How does that work?
Yeah. No, it's a really good question. And this has been, I tell you, everybody, this has been a game changer for me and some other people who I've shown this pattern. They're like, wow, right? And so all you need to do is there's a Notion MCP connection, right? And so add it, and then it's going to authenticate, and then Claude is going to be able to collaborate. And I'm happy to actually even show mine if you want, if you all want to see it. But like
I
this,
would.
yeah, I'm happy to show it. Like this is my actual thing that I'm working in where for my work that I do, right? And so when I ask, like this is the one literally I just created, this one that we ran. It created this entry, this lightning lesson, right? So all the work that I do around my craft of teaching, well, you can imagine all of the things that I need to design and create. So in my case, Notion is my persistent store. So when you don't have to, I mean, you just ask Claude, hey, Claude, can you create a database that will save X, Y, and Z? And it will go and do that, right? And of course, you need to say, yes, go ahead. I'm okay with you about to perform the thing. So just create an MCP, right? Create an MCP connection. And then here's the thing. And this is a great question because it relates to the skill. So this skill, designing the course lesson, at the end of the skill, as I was creating the skill, I said to Claude that at the end, I want to save the lesson design to my Notion database. So the actual, and so what does Claude do? It goes and reads the schema, and then the last step of the skill is to put it into my Notion database. So what would that look like? Hey, Claude, let's go create this new. It was the one that I just showed you when I said the last step. Hey, save it to Notion. So I'm riffing with Claude, and it says, James, are you okay with that? Does that look good? Like, is this new thing good? And I'm like, yeah. And I'll just say the one word, save it to Notion. It will then populate Notion, right, with this thing that we created, right? So just create an MCP, and then as a part of your skill, if part of the skill you want to persist the output of the task, in my case, it's the details of the lightning lesson, then just have Claude persist that and it will save that, right? This has been a complete game changer for me because I didn't have a really good way to saving all of the results of the augmented work that I do. Does that make sense?
Mm,
Uh,
makes sense.
not as much as I'd like, but I'm a lawyer by training, so my
Okay.
coding skills are about zero. But thank you for the
Okay.
reply.
Okay, Jay. Yeah, not you not say it, but yeah, of course, Jay. There's no coding skills here. We're just telling Claude what we want. This is the other thing that I think people kind of underestimate. Is not you, Jay. I'm just saying in general. I see this in my
Yes.
cohorts. They're like, okay, what you're saying, James, is we just need to talk to Claude a lot more. I'm saying
Mm,
yes. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying tell what you want in Claude and the MCP, like everything's getting smarter, right? And so what's the key skill? I think the key skill is being clear what we want, right?
Uh,
And
uh,
so and so all a lot of these tables and stuff, I mean, of course, do I have a data background? Of course. But the tables and all the other things, Claude Claude built them, right? Okay, Claude
Really
built them.
quickly,
Yeah.
I just want to ask one last follow-up, really quickly. So I'm a
Yeah.
lawyer. I'm interested in learning how to do this and vibe coding. If I wanted to create a workflow whereby I could say to Claude, "Hey, Claude, I saw these 5 companies just got venture backed. What am I run my LinkedIn connections and how can I get in contact with this company? Is that something that if I take this course, I'll be able to do at the end of the course?
Yeah, you will learn. So I have two courses. One that's specifically Claude, and then I have my other course that I've had for a year around helping. It's called Hands-on Agentic AI for Leaders, and we're basically doing that too. So either of these will probably help you for if you're a Claude person. Maybe the Claude one will maybe be appropriate. But what's the key task, right? Let's just take this thing with Jay, and I see this a lot. The key thing is that if you can articulate what the flow is and what the requirements are, then, right, like Jay, you're being a lawyer, right? Then
Yeah.
then you're going to collaborate with Claude, and it's going to help you write all those instructions. Right. And so a key part of right the building task also is testing it. Right. So you create this skill, and then you're going to test it, and you're going to be like, oh well, it didn't do that, did that, and you're like, okay, Claude, we need to change it. So the key thing is just imparting our domain expertise because Jay, I'm sure you do this manually, you know how to do it. And so what are we really doing? We're teaching Claude, and it's then translating those things into some executable instructions so that it can carry out that task in a, let's say, collaborative way with you, right? And a lot of times it doesn't even have to be automated, right? Like this one here, creating a lightning lesson. It's not an automated task, but does it help me allow it to do faster, better, more? Of course, right? So I think this key skill is being able to articulate what you want and what are truly the steps. And that's not a technical thing. It's riffing with Claude or your favorite AI tool to get down to the specifics of the details of the workflow and the steps. Does that make sense to everybody?
It does. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and this is what most people underestimate. They underestimate the level of detail that's required to get the output, right? And they wonder why. And then I've had some people in my course, they're like, okay, I get it now. I'm just not
They
clear.
overestimated or
No, they
underestimated?
under they underestimate the level of specificity that's required for an AI to carry out that task, right? Is generally a bit higher, and they just expect the AI model to magically read their mind and know exactly how they do this tribal thing. And it's just unrealistic, right? It's just unrealistic. Yeah. So Jay, thanks
Yeah,
for
if it's
asking
very
the question.
consistent, you have to, the more detailed steps you give, it'll be giving you consistent output.
Yeah, yeah. So part of it is testing it, right? And
Yeah,
and
okay.
and then testing it, and then does it give you the output you want, right?
Right.
So that
Right.
that's the key thing, right? And again, for the things that you perform manually today, you're going to be the best to judge, right? I saw another hand, Nestor.
Thank you, James. Just a question. Every time you write a prompt in the prompt area, Claude goes to the skills area and first checks if there is something that can use.
So is that your question?
Yeah, that's the question. See,
Yeah.
just if every time that we write a prompt, the first thing that Claude does is go in and check the
And
skills in order to have an answer.
no, actually, what happens is that when you open up Claude, like see this one, level one, when you
Uh,
open up Claude, it's going to go to that virtual file system,
uh-huh.
and it's going to read every single skill that you've got in your system. So let's
Okay.
make it real. When I boot up Claude and open up Claude, it is going to go read the 50 something skills that I have in here. Now, to be clear, it's not reading all the details. What exactly is it reading? It is reading two things. It's
Uh-huh.
reading the name,
Uh-huh.
and it's reading this paragraph of what the
The
description
description.
is. Okay.
Oh,
And it's
great.
the description, to be clear, it's the description that Claude is using as its trigger. So if your description is not clear, or you have this
Mm.
skill that's kind of general, what's going to happen? It may not get activated, right? So you look at this one, naming session titles, pretty clear. The description, pretty clear, right? Because I've riffed on it, right? So that's the key. The Claude's not a it's not a mind reader. So
Hmm.
Nestor and everybody, it's going to read the name of every skill, and it's going to read the description. And then going back to what Nestor said, in your prompt, if I said, "Hey Claude, I need your help to name this session title. Here's my draft." What is it going to do? It's going to read the rest of the instruction manual, right? Of how does James, like, I didn't realize it was this long, but like, wow, like there's lots of lines there, right? Because there's examples and again, it's a how-to manual, right? It's a how-to manual. And this is what makes it very, very powerful is the how-to manual is then stored. So if Claude needs the how-to manual, it's going to go read the how-to manual. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
James, on that
I'm
note, I have one question. So, is there a way that we can modify a previous created
gr-
skill?
great questions. Thank you, Valentina. Yes, let's do that. And that's the important thing. Um, like this one right here. Go edit with Claude. And then you're just going to riff with Claude and talk about what you want to edit. Okay? Then at the end, once you're done, you're going to need to hit the button to upload and overwrite your existing skill. If you don't do that, it's not going to overwrite the skill. Think of it like saving a Word document, and if you don't save it as a file to your computer, it's the same thing. It's not going to save the skill to your virtual file system. So
Hmm.
thanks for asking that. And this is really good. This is really good for Valentin. Is that right? As we start to use these things, we're going to be like, oh, well, I think I needed to do this and I think I need to do better. This is the beauty of it is that these skills get better over time as we use them, right? And this is your IP. This is your IP. And as I think about it, I'll just mention this because I'm a little bit over the top on this. In my course as well, the thing. Well, I'll just show you what I did and just what I'm saying about that. So I have a GitHub repo of every one of my agent skills, okay, as a backup. Why do I do that? I can't tell you how many days, weeks, or whatever it took to create these 60 something skills. This is how I do work every day, right? So I've backed up all of my skills, right? And right, this is we can look at it at any way. This is the one we looked at today, right? And so we can go look at the skill MD file. This is what Claude is executing, right? Okay. So that's more of a hygiene thing, right? But I'll just mention that if you have a full library of Claude skills, highly, highly recommend you back it up on GitHub. You don't need to be an expert. You don't need to be an expert,
Hmm.
right? Use Claude Code, and Claude will help you create the repository, and you just download that and upload that because these things are super important to your productivity and I would say livelihood, right? Because it's how you do work. Yeah. What are the questions that we got? The slides, yeah, the slides and the video and everything. Yeah, after the event, you'll get emailed everything. Um, what other questions? Any other good ones? Anybody have a final question? Um, that if they don't get answered, they're not going to sleep tonight, or let's see, what have we got? Oh, thanks, John. Um, I'm just looking here. Uh, yeah, for those of you who are helpful, here's the other thing I tell people in my class who might be maybe ChatGPT users, Google users, and I use all those tools as well. This is an open standard, so if you wanted to get going, I would recommend um, getting a Claude subscription for a month, right? You can go and you can start the journey of creating your skills. They're just folders with markdown in them and maybe some other goodies, right? And what do they look at? What do they look like on your file system, right? They're just folders, right? So like I'll just show you, right? Like I know it's a little bit small, right? They're just folders. Like when I download these, right? And if you can see, these are just folders and files, right? So that could be one thing. If you wanted to get started, just go on the Claude platform, download them, and if here soon, ChatGPT and the rest of them adopt it, right? You at least have a starting point. They are going to change your life. Which is better, using Claude Code, using the web interface, or the code editor? I use Claude Code with Cursor. I use both the extension and the terminal. And those are the things actually I'm going to cover in my course as well. And it's not a technical thing. I mean, are they used to code? Of course they are, but we know we can use things like Claude Code for a lot of other things. Okay. Hey, was this helpful? I had fun. I could go on for another 2 hours, but hey, thanks everybody. I had some. Hopefully, I left you with the skills are really an important construct for building out agentic AI workflows. They encapsulate your knowledge, spend a little bit of time taking all these wonderful things that you do in your job and package them up as skills so that Claude, if you use a Claude user, can help you do that thing faster, better, more repeatably. I know it's radically changed my productivity in the last couple months. And again, the other unlock is I approached it from a workflow perspective, not random. Oh, let me just go create skills. It started at the workflow, and what exactly do I do in the course of a day? And I'll plug my other. In a couple of weeks, in 2 weeks, I'm going to cover my cataloging system, my registering system of how do you keep track of all the skills that you have? How do you know what skills power what workflows? I've got an upcoming lightning session on that because I just want to share it with the world, and join me if you're up for that as well. Okay, everybody, I had fun. Those of you who stayed a whole hour, my 30-minute thing was an hour. I really appreciate it. Reach out on LinkedIn, even if you're not going to take my course. Hit me up on LinkedIn. I love meeting people and sharing my information. So I look forward to being a part of your network. All right, everybody. Have a good rest of the day. Oh, Chooch, hey, good to see you, man. All right, DP. All right, everybody.
Bye.
Yeah, take care.
Thank you, James. Goodbye.
Thanks, everybody.